The original Bioshock introduced gamers to the City of Rapture, a city built underwater where some really crazy stuff went down, and only a few utter lunatics are still in operation. Who knows why you're there and what the heck is actually going on around you? It would be a stretch to say that the gameplay was great, but it still won tons of fans with its survival horror flavor and exploration with slight RPG elements that's rarely done in video games today, with a slight hint of PC gaming from yesteryear. The game was a mystery for you to unravel. I finally got around to playing the original Bioshock, but it didn't blow me away. I've thought long and hard about whether some of the love this game gets has to do with time and place, or just the fact that some people really dig anything that does survival horror in any capacity at least decently well. I could never fully get into the gameplay. It was just a little bit clunky and a little bit awkward. The weapons never felt powerful enough, and your Eve powers, which allow you to do things like shoot fire or electricity, was always running out way too quickly to allow me to really enjoy coming up with a good strategy. The best way to get things done in that game is to whack people with your wrench almost the entire way through. Fair enough, I suppose, but it just felt a little crude to me. The hyped up storyline left me wanting a little more as well. I've never been a big fan of audio logs, and just like how every cutscene happens behind a thick wall of glass in which you rarely interact with anyone, I felt the same thing in that I never really cared truly about the majority of these characters. I like the mythology behind things like the Big Daddies and the Little Sisters, but I suppose I wasn't the biggest fan of the entire presentation of everything. Apparently in Bioshock 2, the original creators, for the most part, are gone. Screw it, this game is essentially a storyline tack-on, but it definitely fixes and improves a lot of the things from the original. The weapons are more balanced. You can dual wield and more efficiently switch between stunning an enemy with your plasmid and then pumping lead into them until they drop. The controls just work better. This all sort of moves the game further away from its survival horror elements and more into a Doom 3 style shooter. The awe of exploration is diminished as everything is somewhat familiar ground here, though this really didn't bother me too much. Bioshock 2 is more concise with what it wants to accomplish. Like I said, the storyline is kind of a tack-on. However, when you take Bioshock 2's storyline at face value and not worry about how it meshes in with the original, it's actually pretty good. You're the alpha Big Daddy, wearing a big tin can suit and all, and you've been separated from the little sister you protect, who's named Eleanor. This is a fantastic idea. There was some great potential in the original Bioshock regarding the spiritual-like link between the Big Daddies and the Little Sisters that was never fully explored, and to take part in it firsthand is awesome. It's a much more personal story, and while it's not nearly as epic as the original, I still enjoyed it quite a bit. Bioshock 2 has gotten some crap for being more of the same. That doesn't really bother me since the concepts of Bioshock are great and I'm all for the refined control. The game's gotten some crap for being overly linear and shorter. Yeah, that's kind of true, but the original Bioshock was pretty linear anyway, and I don't consider well-done linear games to be a bad thing. None of the areas truly feel as grand as some of the ones in the original, but I was never disappointed with the level design. I would have liked one of the areas to be truly gigantic and epically memorable, but that disappointment is very slight. Finally, some people aren't too thrilled that the Big Daddy you play as handles pretty much exactly like a human and can be taken out just as easily as the main character from the first game. This is true and a little bizarre in concept, but in terms of gameplay, it doesn't really matter. Bioshock 2 has a few fun additions to play around with if you like. Once you rescue a little sister, you can tag along with her and collect Adam from corpses. This triggers a little defense-style minigame where you must protect her and yourself from an onslaught of baddies. You need to prepare for these by setting up traps at all of the entry points, at least if possible, and making sure that you're all filled up on ammo. I found it to be a rather cool addition. I wasn't compelled enough to do it at each and every opportunity, as it wasn't truly thrilling all of the time, but it was nice and it was fun. Bioshock 2 has an online multiplayer. Is this the game that's going to be touted as the Call of Duty killer or whatever's on top right now? Probably not, but there are a few elements in here that make it oddly addicting at times, particularly in setting up traps and hacking turrets to gain the advantage over others. All of the standard forms of play are here, and I did have some fun with this. I don't want to overhype Bioshock 2. The game was constantly fun, but rarely was I ever on the edge of my seat and completely blown away. It's a fun little game with some tight production that makes it worth checking out. I'm no Bioshock nut, but this game was quite fun and worth at least a rental. I'm not sure if I'll be constantly coming back to it, but I am very glad that I played it. Bioshock 2 for the Xbox 360 receives an 8 out of 10.